The Joy of Creation, the last of the 3 Fnaf fan games that I really liked when I was a lot younger. Now, when it comes to this little series of fan games, like the other ones I've already covered at this point, Joy Creation is a part of the fanverse with the upcoming Ignite collection, so this video will end up being outdated when that releases in 2034. We have 3 games to look at today, one of them being the beta, which is what we'll be covering first. So this is actually the beta version of the game called The Joy of Creation Reborn. Now this game is really interesting because it's actually a fully free-roam Five Nights at Freddy's fan game. Now they're common these days, but back then you would never really see any game that would try to push the free roam style into a Fnaf game. This one obviously being the one that sort of popularized the whole idea. It wasn't the first one, but it was the one that really, like I said, just pushed the idea. Also, anyone find it weird that this is technically a beta of story mode and not the Halloween edition? Whatever. It's actually kind of like one of those horror games where Pac-Man and you're the ghost. It's kind of like that. We have 4 scenarios, obviously being the 4 animatronic characters, or as many of you already know them as, the ignited animatronics. So we start here with Freddy and we're tasked with collecting 5 objects. And that's like the gist of the scenarios, is collect items within a time limit, obviously avoiding the constant threat. So the Freddy scenario, the level design is really just a straight line with some cutting pathways. This is the easiest of the other characters. Freddy will roam around until you're in his line of sight. Then he'll just become Usain Bolt and will not stop until he catches you. Also, love the sound design and how you can hear the metal squeaking and the thumping when the feet touch the floor. Let's move on to Bonnie. So Bonnie is the exact same as Freddy, with the only difference here being, one, the location, and really the main big difference that makes Bonnie just a little harder in my opinion is really the level design. It's a little bit more labyrinthian with some more dead ends. I would actually like to point out the jump scare animation because turns out Bonnie apparently learned the Falcon Punch. Actually, both Foxy and Chica have some fairly brutal jump scare animations, except Freddy, he just jerks the camera around. Alright, so the objective for Freddy is to find objects, and Bonnie's slightly more challenging, mainly due to the level design, so he's just like Freddy. It's once we get to Foxy, however, when things get interesting. Foxy and Chica are more gimmicky characters, rather than Freddy and Bonnie, who are more level design. Foxy actually having his whole shtick from Five Nights at Freddy's 2. So in FNAF 2, he had a bit of an epileptic seizure if you flashed his face 50 times down the hallway. Now in this game, it's been reduced to 1. Foxy will actually follow the player around instead of roaming the attic himself. He needs to be flashed when his eyes glow white. This will stun him for a second, and you can take the downtime to grab the objects that you need. Be careful, because if you time it poorly, then his eyes will glow red and he cannot be stopped. The attack is telegraphed, so you'll have a small window to react in the time. If you fail, well, have fun getting a pirate hook through your skull. Then there's Chica, probably my least favorite character in this game because I could not for the life of me understand, and still don't actually, what her gimmick is. You are in the forest and you need to collect 10 pages, so it's basically Slender but with a chicken. So she does follow the player like Foxy, but at a distance, so you can barely see her, but doesn't have the flashing gimmick like he does, I think anyway. Really the easiest way I managed to beat this was turning down the graphics settings, which actually helps you see a little bit better. So, obviously, that's one issue I have with the game, but another one I do have is, what objects do I even need to find? It's so vague on what classifies as an object to the game. Yeah, I know, trial and error type stuff, the game's pretty short if you know what you're doing, but at least give the player a bit of an idea on what they should be going after. Like, maybe specify what items need to be found on the HUD, or keep it vague, but at least give the items that you need to find a little bit of an outline to show the player that it has some importance to them. There is an extras menu, and it's just the animatronics on display. There's a secret here with some weird Foxy looking thing. I don't know if it has any significance to the story, or the series if not. It's still pretty cool regardless. So then there's Halloween Edition, which is like the official game. of Reborn, but it's not in beta anymore. This one you have to be dealing with a Nightig Springtrap who looks oddly familiar in the FNAF 3 location, which seems pretty dumb to make this into some maze-like area considering it's literally just a straight line. But the vents here were actually made into like actual hallways, and some extra hidey hole rooms were added. I really like that the cameras actually were a mechanic in this. Cameras are a very important mechanic to Five Nights at Freddy's and are like the core identity of it. You actually need them quite a bit too, luring Springtrap with the audio away from you or towards you. You can also hide from him as well. Your objective is to burn the place down, so you need to find a hammer and break 6 pipes and grab a lighter and burn it all to the ground. You know, actually, now that I think about it, you reckon that this game was the main inspiration for Security Breach? I don't know, maybe just some food for thought really. These games are pretty fun, fairly short but otherwise really good, except Chica of course, I just really don't like her. I think my favourite here would actually have to be the Halloween edition of the game, mainly because Nixon actually managed to find a place for the cameras in this game, something that, like I already said, you never really see for free-roam FNAF fan games. This one actually managed to do that and nailed it, so overall, this is a very good free-roam experience. Now let's finally talk about the story mode for the joy of creation. Alright, so story mode. The story of this game, I'll be honest, is pretty stupid. So this is a universe where FNAF has officially ended and Scott can finally move on when demons, yes, demons, I think, decide to torture Scott's family, who so happen to live in the middle of fucking nowhere. So I guess we're in Wyoming. That's pretty much the entire premise of the story, so you need to play through 5 scenarios and beat the demons. The first scenario being the bedroom. This one's pretty simple. Freddy will approach from the window, so you need to shut the curtains in his face when he's looking through. Bonnie and Chica will come in the doors and will knock before they enter. You need to turn the light off for Bonnie, but keep it on for Chica. If I'm wrong about that, then it's the other way around. They will never enter at the same time, by the way. You also need to lay in bed to keep out of their sight as well. Strangely enough, I never saw Foxy in this section. Now, I think he is in this scenario, but for my playthrough, I just never seem to encounter him. I don't know how he enters the room, but he probably does. I don't know, someone tell me in the comments. The next section is the living room, and this one has a little free roam to the mix. So you need to keep an eye on Freddy and Foxy, who will both approach the doors in adjacent hallways, and when they do, you need to hide from them. Now, they both move in sync, so you need to pause one of them to desync them, so you won't immediately die when both Freddy and Foxy enter the room. Bonnie will approach the middle door, and you need to keep an eye on his position via looking through the little keyhole here. And he'll open the door, and you need to hide, obviously. Chica basically really just here for stunning and slowing the player down. She's more of an annoyance than an actual threat here. The office, which, by the way, is from the alpha build of the game, is different. See, you need to open the doors and flash the light in Freddy's face, which will make him leave, but be careful because Foxy might be there instead and will instantly kill you. So you need to use the cameras to make him go away, making it safe to check for Freddy. Chica will occasionally appear, and you will need to find some cupcakes for her. They spawn in random places, and you do have a little bit of a time limit, so be quick and efficient. Bonnie will count one of the cameras, and if you look at him, he'll falcon punch the camera, disabling it permanently. Yes, permanently. Giving Foxy the biggest freebie since Arrangement Child and battery snatching. The basement, which this time is fully free roam, sees you maneuvering around endoskeletons, and the little cutscene at the beginning is it's just basically COD Black Ops all over again.
Head.
No, I want to keep pressing you.
Hey! Who are you people? What do you want from me?
We want the numbers, Mason. That's all we've ever wanted.
The first endoskeletons just sort of stand still, and getting too close will result in a jump scare. The next one you need to find items, then put them in the furnace. Another endoskeleton will appear right near the furnace, ironically enough, so you have to be pretty careful about balancing that. Then they'll actually throw in the Weeping Angel endoskeletons, which actually feel like a threat because on how claustrophobic the level design of the basement is. Also, that whole gimmick made it into Security Breach, by the way. Like, I already said that this series may have been the main inspiration for that game, but honestly at this point I think the evidence is pretty convincing. By the way, I should point out that the death animation sees Scott getting burnt alive in the furnace while the endos just sit there and watch him. There's also this hallway where the gimmick is to not look behind, and if you do that, you'll hear Sonic the fucking Hedge endoskeleton run up behind you. The final section has you dealing with more Weeping Angel endos, and that pretty much ends the basement section of the game. Now we finally move on to the attic section where we meet this game's version of the manga called Creation, which is going onto my list of shittest names for animatronics, so you're joining the list with the rat from Candies. Anyway, you need to flash Golden Freddy 12 times while keeping Creation away from you as well, and juggling the 2 endos that will bolt for you, so you need to keep the door on the left or right shut. Golden Freddy can appear behind you and you need to quickly look away. I also really like the Creation jump scare, how he enters the attic via the trapdoor. It's pretty cool. Honestly, the animations in this game are sick as hell. Sound design really good as well, as I've already mentioned. I love the sudden fear of the endo bolting it towards you. Great stuff, honestly. Beating the game just shows that Scott died in a house fire. Well, I guess if Fnaf dies, then Scott dies. There are some secret newspapers as well in these scenarios. It's really just to build up the lore, something to do with an arsonist or something like that. Story mode, albeit the actual story itself is on par with Resident Evil stories, where they take it so seriously that the player can't take it seriously at all. I mean, the only thing that this game is missing at this point is Resident Evil's Oscar tier acting.
Oh, Barry!
That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
You're right. Barry, thanks for saving my life.
It was really a fun experience. The mechanics are interesting and does have that classic Slender appeal of it getting more challenging and the player wanting to get to the end. The basement section is pretty ambitious, but in my opinion it really nails it. Probably the best part of that game if I'm being honest. I love all the little details, animations, character designs. No surprise this one even ended up in the fanverse in the first place. Ignited Collection is currently being worked on at the moment, so I don't exactly know what to expect, other than a story mode remaster. If the free roam stuff does get added into the Ignited Collection, can you add a Falcon Punch sound effect for Ignited Bonnie's jump scare, please? Well, that's all the time I'll have for today's video, so if you enjoyed what you saw, please consider subscribing. It is super helpful, and it's always greatly appreciated. You can follow me on Twitter as well, link is in the description. I would appreciate some more followers on that hell site, I guess. And then you also have my Discord server, which is also linked in the description, and I promise you it's not a cesspit, and anyone who does join it, please be funny, because literally everyone who has joined it so far has either just not talked at all, or they've just been unfunny, so I would appreciate something that breaks the cycle, please. You can find that in the description as well. Thanks everybody so much for watching, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time.